They turned corners and went down passageways. It seemed that Eber knew his way well in these tunnels. The children's minds were full of questions, but the worried expression on their uncle's face told them that they would have to wait. The terrible booming could still be heard, and the walls of the mountain shook. "What is that?" asked Jonathan. "The trolls are ramming the northern gates," said Eber, scanning the passageways to his left and right, trying to remember the way to the western tunnel. "You should not be here at such a time as this." He shook his head, but knew that this was partially his fault. He had encouraged their adventurous spirits, teaching them to track, hunt, and survive. Perhaps he knew a day like this was coming and wanted to prepare his brother's children for the test. After a short while of journeying, they came to a small passageway lit by small torches. Above it read, "The Western Way," in Fairish, the language of the fairies. Here they paused and ate some food from Timo's emergency survival kit. Timo also passed around his water skin, which Jonathan and Eber gladly received. "Always prepared, I see," grinned Eber, showing some of the pride he felt for his nephews. There were some fairies standing guard by the Western Way, and being told to expect Eber and his nephews, had prepared the three travelers some supplies for their journey, including fresh torches, a small bundle of timber for fire, and some food. After a brief pause, they began the journey down the Western Way. It was a single passageway crudely cut into the stone. They turned and meandered down the passage, noticing at times streams of gold and silver that the path curved to avoid. After a while, Eber noticed that his nephews were tiring, as the sun had gone down many hours ago outside the mountain. They came to a wider section of the tunnel, and Eber felt that this was as good a place as any to get some sleep. They built a small fire and curled up beside it. The children had waited for what seemed like an eternity to have their questions answered, and they could wait no longer. It was Jonathan who spoke first. "How do you know about the fairies? And you said trolls weren't real. And how do you know about the king? And why did the king say he wouldn't fight his brothers? And—" Jonathan, Eber interrupted, knowing his nephews would be full of questions. "Now seems like the time to tell you the truth of this world." The children sat up and looked intently at their uncle. He was staring into the small fire and prodding it with a stick. Many, many years ago, there was a great fairy called Veru. He led the northern clan of fairies, and they lived above mountains, not under them like their brothers. He was a good fairy and took care of the mountains. But one day he found the Doomstone. "What's the Doomstone?" asked Timo, shuddering at the sound of it. "An object of evil, created before the time of fairies and men for stronger minds to use. It twisted the heart, mind, and body of Veru, and he became the first troll. One by one, all the fairies of the north were corrupted. They moved high into the northern mountains, and have for the most part stayed there, out of the way of fairies and men. Occasionally, they would raid the villages in the foothills or the tunnels under the mountains, but it has been a long time since we heard of them. That was until your father went missing." The children now paid even closer attention. Their father had gone missing when they were younger, and it had caused their mother great pain. They missed their father, but were so young at the time they had also forgotten most of what they knew of him. Your father heard rumors that the trolls had returned and were growing in numbers. He went to find more information, but never returned. He paused and looked into the faces of his nephews, his eyes filled with tears. "I did what I could. I tried to make you strong, able to look after yourselves, protect you from the truth until you were old enough. I thought you would have more time, but it seems the king of the trolls is wanting to expand his kingdom, and now he attacks the mountain." "Can't the fairies just stay? Lock the doors?" asked Timo. "The fairies could last a long while here in their halls," Eber answered. "When your walls are mountain, your house is strong, but eventually their strength would fail, and the trolls would prevail. The fairies know this, so they leave. There was a long pause. "Is father alive?" asked Jonathan quietly, not looking at his uncle. "I do not know," replied Eber. "Your father is a strong man, but he was delving into dangerous waters. I went looking for him, and that's when I found the fairies. I helped one of their scouts escape from a troll, and they welcomed me into their kingdom, a rare honor. But I did not find your father." He could not look the children in the eyes. "What happened to the Doomstone?" asked Jonathan, trying to steer the conversation away from the painful subject of his father. "No one knows," replied Eber. "It may not even be real, just a story to make sense of the trolls." "If it was found, could it be destroyed? And would the trolls become fairies again?" Timo asked. "I do not think so," replied Eber. "No, the damage is long done, and the trolls are evil. They are beyond repair. Though some still believe, including the king I might add, that the healing waters of the mountain can break the curse. But alas, they have not been found." "What are the healing waters?" the children asked together. "Legend tells that before time the builders of the mountain made a well of pure light, filled with the water of creation that could heal any disease and break any curse. The fairies have searched long for such a well. I do not believe it exists. But we must sleep. I will wake you in a few hours, and we must journey on again. The gates of the fairies will hold for a while, but not forever. I want to be long gone before they break through." Timo had one last question. "Why did they call us Child of Man?" His uncle looked at his nephews with a strange look. "Some fairies believe in an old prophecy, more of a nursery rhyme if you ask me, where a child of man will bring peace to the fairies. It seems your coming on such a day as when the trolls attacked the gates brought back this old tale to their minds. Think nothing of it." They laid down and almost immediately fell into a deep and troubled sleep. Timo dreamt. In his dream, he was back in the king's chamber, but it was different. Where a large statue stood in the real throne room, instead there stood a small door. Timo felt drawn to the door. He reached out his hand, and the door opened on its own. Walking through, he saw a stairway winding down into the depths of the mountain. As he followed the steps, a great light grew until he could not stand its brightness. He felt warm, strong, at peace, healed. He woke up.